2022 our Death Holler brought us Season 3, Slash or Pass. It became the classic horror film podcast of its time. Now Death Holler brings us the most shocking season ever.
10 more parts.
Season 4, Dead or Dead.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Imagine, if you will, that one of the hosts is absolutely terrified of zombies.
So, what's the plan? Bash him in the head, that seems to work out.
Now, accept the fact there is no escaping this horror. Death Holler brings back the dead. Remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is advised. With hospitality like this, you'll never want to leave. We hope you stay alive.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Death Holler. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Death. Joining me, as always, my co-host, La Llareyna, and this is the second part of our Haitian/voodoo zombie episode about Serpent and the Rainbow from 1988. Tagline: "Don't bury me, I'm not dead."
That was a cool scene.
It's one of the most memorable scenes in the movie. So
yeah, and you would think that with them knowing what's happening in their country, that they would have been a little bit more, I don't know. They were all fucking scared of him, though.
Well, I think they were pretty well scared of the guy who was after him, though, so they knew not to fuck with that dude.
Yeah,
you know?
That is true.
Directed by Wes Craven.
What? Never heard of him.
Yeah, never heard of that guy. Written by Wade Davis, who's actually, it's based upon his book. So a weird parallel between White Zombie and this. Both were based on books by, guys white men that had traveled down to Haiti and had like this experience with voodoo zombies.
Yeah.
Richard Maxwell and Adam Rodman. Music by Brad Fidel. Made for a budget of $7 million. It made $19.6 million. So not too bad.
Not terrible. Yeah. Not the best, but
not White Zombie numbers, but still,
yeah.
I mean, it's there. Bill Pullman plays Dennis Allen, the stand-in for Wade Davis, literally, who is the biologist adventurer in the story, kind of a, social virtue signaler type guy too. He's, thinks he's got the white savior complex. He's going to save the people on the island from their, tormentors that's there. Bill Pullman, of course, is known for Spaceballs, Independence Day. He played the president in that, Lost Highway, League of Their Own, Wyatt Earp, and then the movie Brain Dead.
He was the husband in League of Their Own, the one that was out to war, huh?
He was, yeah.
I couldn't remember who he was. I was like, fucking A League of Their Own, what? Okay.
This was his first movie, if I remember right, too. So,
holy
kind of
shit.
Interesting. They were afraid of taking a bet on such a new and upcoming actor, but they decided to go with him, and it turned out pretty well because Bill Pullman is a pretty good actor. He really is. Kathy Tyson plays Marielle Duchamp, who is the psychologist, Vaudin practitioner in the movie. She was in the Sandman podcast series, played in the movie Mona Lisa, and she in the movie Priest. Zakes Mokai plays Dargent Petrod, who is the secret police of Baby Doc and also the zombie master in the movie. And he's a fucking prick, too, on top of that in the movie. He was in Waterworld in the movie Outbreak. Paul Winfield plays Lucien Celine, who's the Vodun priest in the movie, the good priest that, helps out Alan Davis in the movie. Or Dennis Allen, I should say. He was in the Terminator, Mars Attacks. He played the president in that movie. It's funny that two actors in this movie play presidents in movies about aliens attacking.
That's
I don't know what
funny.
that says, but that's truth. Or actually, no, he didn't play the president because that was Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
He played the general that was killed in the big scene in that movie. So, but still, there's a little bit of a link there. And he was in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
I thought he was Lando. I thought he was Lando Calrissian. I was like, is that Lando? My husband's like, no, that's a whole completely different actor. And I was like, my bad.
You've just been proven racist by the racist.
Tell me. Yeah, the white man told me I was racist.
Brent Jennings plays Louis Mozart, who's a Vodun maker of zombie powders, zombie voodoo priest himself. It doesn't really show him making zombies, but he knows how to make the powder, and he's got like one of the bags says he's got one of their souls. So he was also in the movie Moneyball, and then we round out the cast with Conrad Roberts, who plays Christoph, who is the actual zombie in the movie. Yeah. And he was in The Mask of Zorro and the Scorpion King. Basic synopsis for this movie is that Dennis Allen goes down to he's going down to Haiti to working for basically Big Pharma in America. He's Canadian, but he's working for Big Pharma. He's going down to Haiti to try to find out how they make the zombie powder, what's in it, because they want to use it for whatever purposes they have. They claim that it's to help people, but it's Big Pharma. It could be any fucking thing. And while he gets down there, he gets kind of tied up in the social politics going on the island because it's the last days, and I'll get into the history of all that, of Baby Doc, who was like a tyrant that run the island. The movie begins with basically showing the unrest in the island. There's people in the streets shooting fucking guns off. I mean, it's a bad time to be there.
Complete and utter dictator.
Yeah, and then Petrod plays like one of his secret police, one of the guys who basically keeps control of the region or a particular region for him. And in the process of trying to find out the zombie powder, he gets in. He kind of becomes attracted to the psychologist, voodoo practitioner Marielle. He tries to he tries to help her out, and even though he's been warned several times, get the fuck off the island. We don't want you here, and he fucks up a little too often. And actually gets controlled by Petrod at one point, and then he has to come back to the island, even if he doesn't want to, and he gets buried and basically becomes a zombie at one point in the movie. So he gets some shit happen to him. History that ties into this. So from the 1950s to 1971, Haiti was ruled by Francois Duvalier, who was named Papa Doc. He was Baby Doc's dad. By all accounts, he was awful. He violated human rights. He had his own secret police, and the island just suffered rampant poverty. Like, if you wasn't one of his people, you were dirt poor. You were living just, third world country stuff.
Yeah.
From 1971 to 1986, the country was taken over by his son, the one that's portrayed in the movie, Baby Doc, who was Jean-Claude Duvalier, and he basically ran the country in the ground. Fuck. His dad at least kept the country like under his thumb. Things just fell apart under Baby Doc. He couldn't handle it.
So wait a second. They chased out, the first one, the main guy, but they didn't think to get rid of not get rid of, but at least chase away any chance from.
Well, I don't know. I don't think they got rid of Papa Doc. I think he maybe died or whatever, maybe passed on his rule to his son, and then his son got ran out of the country is what happened.
Oh, okay.
In the movie, you're seeing Baby Doc like being, drove away. It's like people are trying to kill him. So in the 1980s, this is the big thing. This is where I was joking about the backdoor stuff about Haiti. Haiti was blamed by the U.S. As being the reason that the AIDS epidemic was spreading so heavily, because it was stated that the island promoted sex tourism for American homosexual men. And this wasn't corrected by the CDC until 1985. So they went a whole 5 years of spreading this bullshit.
Okay.
Saying that, oh yeah, AIDS is real bad down there, and they're spreading it to the gays. They're coming up here and spreading it. That's bad territory. So people avoided Haiti like the plague for good reason. I mean, they thought they were going to die because they didn't know what AIDS was. And by the time that the CDC actually corrected all that, it was too late.
Damage had already been done.
Country.
Yeah. It's like, okay, guys, the CDC could have just done this. Look, we made a mistake. This is where our data came from. We thought we knew what was going on. It was not the gays. It was not men having sex with men. It was people having sex with monkeys. That's all. No questions.
Do you want to know? I mean, I hate to be political about this, but I have to say this. Do you know who was over the U.S.'s epidemiology at that time and made all these let all these things get out there?
Kamala Harris.
Anthony Fauci, if you've ever heard of that name.
Dr. Truth and Science?
Yes, and he was also at the time, he actually came out and said that if you were even in the same household as someone with AIDS, by the mere properties of being in the same area as them, you too could catch it, just being around them. So
what a loser. Did he ever walk back that statement? Did he ever say he was wrong?
He never said he was wrong, but he did say that the science had changed, even though science doesn't change according to him now. I just want to throw that out there for anybody. I mean, just to give you an example of history repeating itself.
Personally, I think Anthony Fauci looks like a zombie. So,
right. Hey, he was probably the one that spread this about Haiti. I mean, let's just throw it on him. I mean,
he's probably the one. Yeah.
He didn't back it down. He didn't say that it was wrong. I mean, he let it be put out there. So
he probably was the one that was literally spreading it in Haiti.
He probably
spreading
was.
His butt cheeks and spreading the rumors.
As Baby Doc's regime collapsed, the U.S. government became interested in the island again, just like they did in the 1915.
Yeah.
This time they claimed they were fearful that the amount of refugees that were leaving the island for the U.S. Were too high and were going to cause issues when they came to shore. They said that the human rights abuses were too numerous and too terrible not to intervene about.
Oh.
And they claim, and here's the kicker. Cocaine was being distributed through Haiti to the U.S. according to the U.S. government. So they used that as an excuse to go occupy the island again.
It wasn't cocaine; it was death powder. Calm down.
But to be fair, and I'm not being fair, I'm just saying, it took until the 90s when Bill Clinton got in office before they officially got involved with the island heavily like they did in the 1915s. But I'll get to that in a second. So anyways, in 1986, Canadian ethnobiologist Wade Davis was actually sent to Haiti by an American pharmaceutical company to find the recipe for zombie dust to see if it had any medicinal uses. They claimed for an anesthesia or a way to induce suspended animation in astronauts. I don't trust Big Pharma for that to be what they were actually trying to study it for, but that's what they claimed. We'll go by that. So anyways, these are supposed to be sensationalized. This movie is a sensationalized version of his actual novel that he wrote about his time on the island, which he called The Serpent and the Rainbow, hence the movie title.
Yeah.
In the 90s, Bill Clinton got heavily involved, used the U.S. military, very similar to what we did in 1915, and took over Haiti, or occupied it at least. And it was around this time that the U.S. Media once again got interested in the island, and we got a bunch of voodoo movies coming out. This was one of them that got greenlit. So another case of history repeating itself. U.S. gets involved in the island. We're like, hey, that's a weird place. Let's make some movies about it. And you get movies. It's a weird thing. I don't understand why we did this, but we did, and there were several movies that came out from it. And actually after that, there was a lot of hoodoo movies that came out, like the Skeleton Key, that came out after that. I what as far as this movie goes, I didn't like pull up any quotes or whatever because a lot of the movies just like fighting and amongst like Wade Davis and the people on at least Patrod and that sort of thing. What did you think about visually this movie? Like, what did you think about it?
Visually, it looked like a film from the 80s, but I think that given better quality in terms of cinematography, it would have been gorgeous because he's in a jungle-like setting at the beginning of the movie, fucking petting a baby, certified good girl. Baby, what? Was that a little? No, it's not a cougar. Was it a tiger?
Oh, I thought it was a jaguar.
Jaguar. He did
petting.
say it was jaguar. Jaguar. I don't know why I pronounce it that way. Sorry, but yeah.
I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. I don't know. That's the way I always say it, though. So
yeah, it the way that you say it sounds like the way it's spelled. I literally say it with a wire at the end, and there is nothing in that ending of that. It sounds like wire. Looks like wire.
The British say it a weird way. They call it jaguar.
Jaguar. There's that too. Oh God! But the scenery was intended. Even Haiti, even though they're technically in the slums of Haiti, it's gorgeous. It's literally oceanside. So,
there's a couple scenes in the movie that kind of show off the how beautiful the island is. That one scene, where they're going in the processional to they've got the candles and they're going out into the jungle and they're walking past like the kind of like the ruined buildings or whatever, and then there's the jungle. That's a pretty cool scene. Like there's a lot of interesting stuff going on visually there. There's other scenes though where they show how just rotten and trashy it can look too. And it's a fair thing to show both of them because Haiti is, it's due to, everything involved. Being cut off from the rest of the world through, like embargoes and, all the revolutions that they've had that kind of being unstable. It's got some rough parts. If you go down there on like a cruise, there's like very specific spots that are like, hey, you can go here. Don't go away from this area, please. You'll die if you do,
I think that this movie visually told a story too. Like if there were not many more words, like if they had taken away some of the dialect in this movie, I think that the movie just visually alone could have told a lot of the story.
The dream sequences, which is funny, Wes Craven. Of
yes.
course, dreams. But the dream sequences are pretty fucking good in this movie.
Yeah.
Like the one where he's falling, it kind of symbolizes some stuff later on in the movie. But when he first has that vision with the jaguar, and then like he falls under the ground, that's clearly foreshadowing that he's going to be buried alive. But it's got those hands reaching out, like the dead bodies, or like reaching out to him, and he grabs one of them.
Yes.
And then the scene later on where Patrod, who's actually in his dreams, kind of like a evil Freddy Krueger type character, is burying him alive or whatever, and that's interesting because he sees himself being like basically put into a coffin or whatever at that point, and all that.
It's weird because at the beginning he's in South America, and
I thought that it was actually he was in another part of Haiti at that point because doesn't he run across Patrod I thought that he saw Patrod at that point, like in passing, and then that's later on. It's like they happened upon each other again.
They were speaking Spanish, and they looked like Native American Indians. So I'm not sure what, because Noah's like, I think they're in. I thought they were in Haiti. Noah said no, they're in South America. But regardless of where they were, even if they were in a different part or whatnot, he was being helped. He was being given an opportunity to experience some things. He was basically given a drug. He was high on shrooms or something. That's why he thought he was wrestling with the sweet baby girl, certified good girl jaguar. She's just a little kitty.
That is true, yeah.
And then it goes away, and all of a sudden something bad happens, and he goes to check on the shaman. That's what I'm calling them. I'm not saying it was a shaman, but that's what it looked like. And he opens up their, they're kind of hiding within their, whatever they're wearing. and he opens it up, and it's what's his name? The guy from Haiti. I can't remember his name again.
Patron.
Yes, Patron. So, and I'm like, I didn't understand it because I'm like, why is he seeing this guy? This guy's not scary. He's just black. I mean, despite of how you feel when you're walking down the street, you know, I'm like, this is just this black guy. Why did it go from being almost a Native American Indian to this African American man? And then later on we see him and I'm like, how did he see him before he saw him?
Well, that's one of the criticisms that Wade Davis actually has about this movie is he says that whenever they were trying, because Wes did try to stick to the actual book more, but then the studio came back and said, hey, you need to horrify this. You need to play it up, you know, put supernatural shit in there.
Yeah.
So that could have been like, and also Davis didn't get involved in any of the politics in the island. So that was
yes.
Wes's. That was Wes's ad. So, because I mean, Wes really was intrigued by the politics going on at the time, so he really heavily dumped that in there. So I'm sure that him seeing Patron at that point was like a supernatural way of him like seeing like his future adversary, and it's more like a fictional thing that he added into the movie just for that purpose.
So that makes sense. It wasn't explained very well, and it's hard to infer that immediately. I mean, towards the end, you're like, oh well, we know because. You know, Patron is like, oh, well, you know, I'm the reason you jumped about this. That was me. I did that. Okay, supervillain, we get it. But at the same time, you normally don't, supernaturally speaking, if we're going to enter that realm, somebody normally doesn't get to have that kind of control or acceptance into you unless, one, you've allowed them to, or two, you've been within some area of their being very close to them, like at their house or something like that, you know, where now you have, it's more of the veil is a lot thinner. So again, it's hard to infer that just based off of what we saw. What you said makes sense, but like I said, it's very hard to kind of just come up with that on your own.
Yeah, again, it's playing into the fact that he saw a true vision that he's like seeing the futures by the way they paint it.
And then what happened at the beginning of the movie where his pilot was just dead in the helicopter?
Now that I don't understand. I don't know why the pilot was already dead, unless that was a symbol that like they'd killed him while he was having his vision, and he was like, "I gotta get the fuck out of here because they're, you know, I'm next or whatever." I never did get that out of it.
Yeah, I was so confused because okay. They killed him. They looked like good people, though. Like, I don't think they were practicing anything dark, in my opinion. I think, if anything, they're just like, here, try this drug. You're going to see things, you know? Fine. That makes sense. But his person is dead. I was thinking that maybe everyone else on the island might have been dead, but then he goes on a street and there's a car full of people, islanders, obviously, and they leave him alone, and he's crying hysterically in the middle of the road, or laughing hysterically, however you think you hear it. And then
it sounded like laughter to me, but
it did.
It could have been either way.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, 10 seconds later, in America, no big deal, no explanation of what happened other than something darker than such and such is what caused the deaths of the people on this island. And I'm like, okay. Like, literally, that's how it was explained. If you're having a hard time understanding what I'm saying, well, that's because this is how it was presented to me.
Yeah, it's very jumbled up at the beginning of the movie. I mean, it gets way better once he actually gets into Haiti and like they start doing the stuff. And it's the most interesting parts of the movie is whenever he goes and he sees the asylum with the zombies inside of it, you know, because they're not just like, you know, workers out in the field anymore. Now we moved up in time. They're actually trying to treat the people, trying to convince them they're not dead. It's an interesting view on the whole thing, you know, that you know how times have changed. And then seeing him deal with Mozart, because like there's an antagonistic relationship between them whenever they first meet. And even at the end of it, they're kind of only half friends. Like they're not really like in each other's you know, they're not really buddy, but they respect each other toward the end of the movie. You know, like they get that And then the scenes with the other voodoo practitioner or whatever, the one that gets killed or whatever, like the
Lando.
the guy, like yeah, Lando, as you said, or Carl Weathers. That's what I thought of whenever I saw him, as far as like stand-in. But like whenever he gets attacked and he has like a stroke or something and just dies right then and there, you know. Yeah. Those are the interesting parts of the movie for me, like later on whenever he's doing all that. And then of course, like what did you what did you think of the scene with the actual zombie in the movie? Because there's Christoph, and that's interesting too in its own way, because like he's still convinced that he died, like that he was brought back. But he's a living man. But the scene in particular I'm talking about is the zombie. Like he has that dream where after they have that processional out into the forest, and there's that one the decayed body of that sorceress or whatever, which is another dream that he has of the future, because that's actually the body that Mozart actually uses to make the zombie powder out of.
Yeah, that was very interesting. And it's weird because she's so menacing, but she's there to help.
Yeah, and like the hand comes out, and like doesn't it go down his throat or something, like or whatever, like I
don't remember if it goes down his throat, but it definitely extends out and fucks him up. He wakes up, obviously. But every time she's been there, it was to warn him of danger.
Yeah, it's true. It was actually every time, because there was actually a snake or something that was crawling over him at that time, wasn't there? Like in reality, doesn't he wake up and there's a snake by him, or was that still in the dream? I can't remember now.
You got me fucked up, because now I don't remember that.
There's a snake crawling over him in the forest, like at some point, either before or after that zombie attacks him, you know, in his dream.
God, I guess I missed that.
Yeah, I don't remember which one it is.
It would make sense. Like that would make the part of the serpent in this fucking film.
Well, yeah, it was definitely in there. I mean, I just don't remember how it landed. There was a couple things I want to bring up as far as quotes, because I found them here. Patrod in particular. By the way, Dr. Allen, what did you dream about this afternoon? A woman in your arms, the sea at your doorstep? No, you dreamt of me of the grave. I know, because I was there, and I can be there every time you close your eyes. The pain I caused you in the room upstairs is nothing compared to the pain I can cause in your own mind. Remember that, Dr. Allen. That's fucked up that when he wakes up from that dream, there's a dead woman's head in his bed.
Oh, yeah, that's fucked up. And it was the zombie sister.
It was, and it was a way to set him up so that they could, basically do whatever they wanted to extra, judicially, basically at that point. And then the scene where he gets his scrotum stabbed in the movie.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah, that one was rough. Patrod, no rest. You see it all. You feel it. The cold in the coffin. It is worse, much, much worse. That's what he says to him before he knows that he's still awake from the zombie powder, but he can't move or do anything about it.
That's fucked up.
And then the scene where he's strapped to the chair about to be tortured, and he's like, I'm a U.S. citizen. Think about that. And then Petrod's like, I don't see an ambassador here. Do you?
Ooh, yeah. I loved that. Yeah, that was so true. It's like, bruh, you are fucking playing with fire.
And then one last thing I want to bring up as far as the quotes, because I love this quote in the cemetery. That scene I did like, the whole scene where they're looking for Christoph. It says, and it was from Marielle. She's like, the way Dr. Schoenebacher spoke of you, it was as though you could walk on water. Well, now I know why. Shit floats. Because he talked down to her and basically pissed her off at that point. She's walking away from him.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good little scene, between the two of them. The story, I actually enjoyed the middle section of the movie quite a bit. The first was disjointed, like we talked about.
Yes.
The middle I liked, whenever he was trying to, get the zombie powder, and then he's forced off the island. But then whenever it starts, like, I don't know how I feel about the end of it, especially the scene where it gets all like freaky deaky supernatural shit toward the end, where like spirits are flying out of those bags or whatever, and they're attacking Petrod.
Yeah.
It's a little much.
It is a little much. Because at the beginning of the movie, it says based on true events. And I said probably grossly, exaggerated.
And the middle of the movie, I can believe happened to some extent. I
Yeah.
mean, even if Davis saw some of those visions, you could still believe somebody can have these dreams.
Oh,
whatever.
100%.
That's not a big deal.
Fucking, I've had shit dreams like that. I hate it. So, yeah.
But then the end part where he has to go back to the island, that was all bullshit. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
it got a little too much. I mean, the chair was funny more than anything.
yeah, as it was moving, trying to take him out or something at one point, and
him flying through the walls, like he's just flying at him like an actual sorcerer. Like that was.
He's flying at him. There's one scene where he punches Davis and like sends him flying through the wall too. It's like, dude, he's not Superman. How does he have strength like this?
Oh, another thing that was funny too, though, but looked actually real. Bill Pullman fights like a fucking girl. His punches were absolutely fucking horrible. We're talking about pulling all the way back and swinging all the way, and like swinging like you're hooking in versus punching straight. That was. Oh my God, that was awful.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of, well, I mean, it still doesn't save it, but if you think of this guy as like a book smart, like, I mean, which Wade Davis has to have had some kind of like street smarts too to be able to work his way into this, culture. So he wouldn't have been totally like, excuse me, he wouldn't have been that type. But I mean, you take a guy who's mostly like who's not like William Seabrook, who's not out there, fucking beating women and, eating flesh or human flesh, who's actually just more of like a guy who's like a bookish type. He probably doesn't know how to really fight. I mean, to be honest,
that would make sense.
But it probably wasn't as exaggerated as they made it out in the movie to be.
Yeah.
What do you think about the acting in the movie? I feel like everybody did their part. Now, Patrod's like way out there in his acting.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's supposed to be the over-the-top villain, so it fit for him.
Patrod works, and so do his henchmen, Bill Pullman, the actress that plays almost like his love interest. I really liked her, especially for the country that they're in. I thought she was great.
She's also gorgeous.
Gorgeous, yes.
She is a beautiful woman, but
she definitely gave him jungle fever.
Mozart was my favorite in the movie.
Yes.
I just like the arc that he went on in the movie. I like and the actor did a really good job of that. Like, because there's that scene where my favorite scene in the movie was where Davis was calling his bluff. And he said, if that's zombie powder and, a little bit's supposed to do so much, then I'm just going to fucking eat all of it or drink all of it right now. And Mozart's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he pours it out and he drinks it, but it's because he's did the sleight of hand and he actually pocketed the real stuff. That was smooth. I liked all that.
I liked that. That was really good. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of anyone else. I mean, I wasn't really buying Lando as the fucking, like another voodoo doctor. Really? He was a little bit too nice. Yeah.
A little bit too, a little too outgoing with the white, guy or whatever. I don't feel like they would be that interested in sharing their knowledge to somebody like that. I mean,
yeah. And in terms of Mozart, he was like, "You're gonna tell everybody about me, right? Everybody's gonna know my name. You're gonna tell them about me." And I'm like, I don't feel like somebody doing what he does wants people to know who he is. I feel like that's a dangerous game.
I was worried, thinking the same thing. I'm like, okay, I can see him wanting the fame to get his name out there as being the ultimate zombie, master. But at the same time, it's like, dude, do you want a target on your back? Because everybody's going to be after you.
You've already got red flags hanging over your head. Like, you don't want this.
It was an interesting thing to his character. I was just like, I don't know that he would want that much target, that much of a pinpoint focus on him after all the shit that's going down in this country.
I'm not sure if I heard, it doesn't matter what school I heard, but one of the quotes I did like was when Bill Pullman's character said, despite his joking around and his nature, Mozart could put the average Harvard doctor to shame.
Oh yeah, that's the reason I like their dynamic, because whenever he sees the actual chemistry and the way that he works that formula later on in the movie, he actually comes to respect him on a whole new level, like a professional level, as opposed to just like, hey, this guy's like he looks at him as a con man at the beginning of the movie. And then whenever he sees the process that he does, he's like, this guy works chemistry better than most of the people I went to school with, basically is what it amounted to.
Yeah.
The scene was a little much too, which is supposed to be one of the standout scenes in the movie for a lot of people. The Beetlejuice scene, as I like to call it, where the big pharma has got weighed over and they're celebrating that they got the zombie powder and what they're going to do with it. And then he sees like another warning, going back to what you're saying, the zombie hand come out of his soup or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then, that part was cool. But then the woman across from him, the blonde haired woman that starts having the seizure or whatever and starts like bucking around on the table.
Yeah.
Is a little much. Is a little too out there.
She fucking attacked him, so she was possessed.
Oh yeah, that's right. She was trying to stab him with that one of the forks at the table. That's what was happening.
And I can't help that the soup was, what's her name? I called her the bride. She looked like she was in,
She looked like she was in bridal clothes. Yeah. She was supposed to be the sorceress or whatever.
Yeah. I feel like that was a warning from her. He knew it because he was like, I'm not hungry. And I wouldn't be hungry either after seeing that decayed hand come out of my soup. Like, despite knowing something's going to happen or not, but it was almost immediate after that she fucking jumped out. So I don't know if that hand kind of pointed to the area like, hey, by the way, this bitch right here is going to fucking be fucked up here in a minute. You might want to check yourself.
Yeah. He gets that warning, but also when she's speaking to him, it's like he knows it's Petrod because like what she says, it's that's the link between the two of them.
By the way, though, the sorceress, when the thing comes out of her mouth, I'm looking at pictures right now. I thought it was a hand.
Is it a snake? Is that what comes out of her? Okay. I knew it was something, but now that you say that, and then he wakes up and there's a snake beside of him, I think is what what happens.
Probably, yeah. I don't remember that part, but I also didn't think it was a snake that came out of her mouth, but it was. I'm looking at it right now, and it basically French kisses him, so.
That scene is actually one of the better scenes in the movie as far as the horror element goes. So, I mean, it's that one was pretty good. But yeah, I don't. The thing is that as far as this movie goes, and the music, I mean, since we didn't bring it up, this actually has some good like voodoo chanting. It's very melodic. It's kind of puts you in a trance at times. It's good for the setting. Lots
of cultural music, a lot of drum beats and things like that.
Right, and they actually show you a possession ceremony in the movie, which is interesting. Because Marielle gets possessed, and you kind of get to see what that's all about.
And she turns into a whore.
Yeah, she really does kind of get into it at that point. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say, this is kind of my overall thought of the movie. It's got a good middle portion, but the beginning and the end kind of make this just a so-so movie for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy watching this movie. I was expecting a lot more scares, but I don't want to be scared. Like, I wanted to be scared during slasher season. I don't want to be scared during zombie season, and that's super easy for me to have. So I didn't get scared during this film, but I enjoyed the storyline only because I'm familiar with the storyline and I've heard about it, and it's very interesting, to say the least. You're like, to this day, they don't know how that toxin works.
They still don't, and he came up with the idea that it was that tetro whatever toxin. Mm-hmm. They went back on that, and they's like, yeah, we don't think that's what the pufferfish toxin. Yeah, they don't think that that's all of it. They're still confused as to how like that whole zombie powder works. So even after he did his research, they still don't have a good grasp on it.
Yeah, but the weird thing about it is this film was from the 80s, so that means that this was researched way before the 80s, and here we are in 2023, and if you Google it, it does say that there's still people investigating it. Regardless of what toxin is causing it or what voodoo is causing it, they can't get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, which I always like a little bit of mystery in life.
Yes.
I mean, I think whenever you explain everything, life gets boring. So it's kind of good that they don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that's why this film to me was pretty damn good, because I was like, oh, give me more of this story. Now, yes, the ending totally threw it off for me. Even the beginning wasn't as bad with everything that was going on. You get the idea of who he is at least.
The beginning is fun in a Indiana Jones way.
Yes.
That's what it reminds you of. And so it doesn't throw me off. It's just like there's a couple things. It's like, why was his pilot dead? How did he get back here? But it's fine. The middle, which is what I feel like is closer to the book for a lot of scenes, minus the political stuff going on.
Yeah. I actually like the political stuff too, because I really think that it kind of shows this not only dictator, but a dictator with actual power.
I enjoyed that part of it. It's just that I know for a fact that Davis did not get involved in all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they threw that in. Like he was skirting around all that stuff at the time just to get, like, how is this powder working? That's all he was worried about.
Yeah.
But the end kind of, the end took this movie for me from like being probably in the 4 range to dropping it back down to probably a 3, to be perfectly honest, if I was giving my ranking right now.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of rotting corpses, it's a 3.5 out of me. Because I was able to watch it. I don't think I'm going to have nightmares tonight.
So you appreciate it just because it kept you from having nightmares.
Correct. And not only that, though, but I think that everyone collectively did a good job in this film. And telling a story that, even though it's told a lot better now on podcasts, because you don't get the whole, supernatural aspect, I can see why for a movie, especially from the 80s, they needed to add that extra supernatural for the horror aspect of it.
Yeah, I can understand that to a certain degree.
Because otherwise it's going to be it's just going to be a documentary, and it's like, cool, but like, I don't see that interesting a lot of people back then.
Well, the thing is that it was also a typecasting thing, because they got Wes Craven to do it, and then they're like, you're the horror guy, do the horror thing.
That is true.
And it was like, and it sucked for him, because I think he really did want to make a straight up documentary, I think, or a style of movie,
Yeah. But he did his usual Wes Craven. He did the dream sequence and everything. We get it, bruh. We get it. We know who you are. You're the Dream Master.
And he works that into the movie. I mean, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of trivia, interesting trivia about this. There was actually political. The movie, whenever it was made. Let's see, what was the year that this came out? I can't remember again.
1988.
1988. They were still having turmoil on the island at this point, and so much so that the crew actually had to film around the locations, because they were, there was fighting and stuff going on, so they had to be real careful about where they actually filmed at. They were filming at the time that this shit was going down. Some of this stuff was still going down, like the revolts from all that.
I was wondering that, and it looks like they had actual footage from some of the protests that they put in the film.
It looks like they did. Even I don't know if they did, but that's what it looks like.
They did a hell of a good job of making it look, because usually when you see fake protests in films, you can absolutely tell, like, oh, this was just filmed,
Yeah, and I think it helps them too. It probably helped the budget, because that squalor and that kind of like trashy look that they got, that was there. Like, they didn't have to add that,
Yeah.
That's like we were talking about with Anna and the Apocalypse and filming in that abandoned shopping center. Sometimes you get locations that do all the work for you, and you don't really have to do any set dressing.
That is true.
Let's see. Newlywed Bill Pullman was actually just married at the time that he made this movie, and his wife was an extra in the film. She appears as a blonde who pushes a long needle through a willing man's cheek at one point in the movie.
Oh, wow.
The investigations and findings of Wade Davis upon which the character Dennis Allen is based didn't amount to a whole lot. His research was dismissed mostly by his peers because while the drug tetrodotoxin, that's the one I was thinking of, that the film states has been under extensive study and was a mystery of science, was actually already well known in 85 and today is actually used as an anesthetic. So they did actually make an anesthetic out of that portion of it.
Damn.
The character of Christophe Durand was based on a man named Clarivus Narcissi, who was stated to have died in 1962 and later risen as a zombie by a local Haitian witch doctor. Narcissi was found to have been poisoned by a paste drug called datura, which caused memory loss and forced him to work as a slave on a sugar plantation. He escaped 16 years later after his captors had all died, and he had also apparently been weaned off of the datura drug by eating salty foods containing bromide, which counteracted the poison. Isn't that interesting that actual salt helped cure him of his zombieism?
That's hella funny.
There might be something to
Get
the salt thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's for protection, and now it's to cure something. I mean, damn.
But it counteracts the poison. So that's interesting that it works that way.
That person's name, by the way, is Narcisse.
Well,
I can't even read it. No, you're fine. I can't even read it, but you're saying it, and I'm like, oh, I know he's saying Narcisse. I just know it is.
Well, I was just trying to say it as I saw it. So there you go.
One hundo.
Let's see. Author Wade Davis agreed to sell the book rights on the condition that Peter Weir direct, who was the one who directed Picnic at Hanging Rock, which is a very creepy movie and done in a documentary style. So I see why Wade Davis wanted that to be the director, and he wanted Mel Gibson to star in it, which is interesting because they're both Australians, Weir and Gibson, but. Of course, neither man had any involvement in the project. That would have been an interesting movie to see, though.
Mel Gibson.
Because the CD soundtrack to this film is extremely rare as it was pressed in limited quantities. Part of this was due to the film's poor reception and the fact that the market was transitioning from LP to CD as a mass format, meaning that the number of copies is much smaller than the average soundtrack album run. So
That's
if
wild.
you can find a CD of this, it's probably worth money.
Whoa.
It says that tetrodotoxin has been known as a poison since 1774, when the famous explorer James Cook ate a local pufferfish and then fed the remains to the pigs kept on board for fresh meat. The crew experienced numbness and shortness of breath while the pigs were all found dead the next morning. It was later deduced that the crew survived a mild dose of it while the pigs ate the parts of the body that had the most toxin and the reason they died. This historical fact carries over into the film when Mozart states that the zombie drug cannot be given in food that would kill completely.
Yeah.
Let's see. Wes Craven confirmed in the interview that unlike some of his previous films, his first cut of the film got an R rating without any issues from the MPAA. They're like, yeah, that's fine. R rating. Move on.
R rate for this one?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess there's a sex scene in it.
Well, there's you know how weird they are. It's
yeah,
like they got the weirdest fucking stuff.
Testicular puncture, I get that. Not too much blood. There is, but there isn't. I mean, there's the scene of him sinking into it in the coffin. I don't feel like there was a ton though.
I don't know their thinking. Maybe the decapitated head was what kicked it over into R rating.
And it looked real.
It did look real.
Yeah.
When this film first played in theaters in the U.S. in the spring of '88, just prior to its opening, a bizarre excerpt from the film ran as a teaser on at least one national network television channel during prime time. That clip, which styled like a hallucination, features a blue computer rendering of a screaming face of Dennis Allen, a.k.a. Bill Pullman, engulfed in liquid as serpents swarmed through and around the top of his head. However, for some unknown reason, the scene did not make it in the final theatrical cut or any of the physical releases of the movie afterward.
I feel like that's how trailers need to be released.
Where they have scenes that don't even make it in the fucking movie?
Yes, because trailers nowadays are giving away all the goods. They're putting their goodies out on the buffet table. They're not keeping their goodies in a jar. And so sometimes we're seeing some of the best scenes just in the trailer. And you're like, wow, in the trailer that looked amazing. But in, the movie, look at, I know that you're trying to get people to come watch the movie. Like, that is not past me. But, like, sometimes some of the coolest shit is in the deleted scenes. It's a good opportunity to use those without giving away what's in the fucking movie.
Yeah, the only thing I have with that, though, is I remember, and I can't remember the movie, but I want to say it was Ace Ventura 2 is what I'm thinking of. There was a comedy movie I watched one time where there was a really funny scene in the teaser trailer, and then it was never in the fucking movie, and it disappointed the fuck out of me that it was never in the movie. I'm like, I don't want the comedy spoiled, but at the same time, that joke was actually funnier than what was in the film. So it was like, why did you cut it?
Yeah, I think if we had a common knowledge, though, that, hey, what you see on here is going to tell us what the movie's about, but it's maybe not actually going to, may or may not be in the film, at least you can mentally prepare yourself for that.
Yeah, I guess. It's just, it was disappointing whenever I watched it in the theater and I saw that, and I'm like, wait, where's that scene that they showed? Like, this would have been it right here because he's in that same situation, and no, it wasn't in the movie.
Yeah, that would upset me, too. Like, I could see myself being irked over that.
According to Fangoria article of numbers and Fangoria 71, the original cut of this movie was 3 hours long.
Oh shit! Yeah, because it's an hour and God, I forget how long this movie was, but it was long.
It's an hour and 38 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, listen, we're tired of the $300 million budgets that make shitty movies, and we're tired of the 3-hour movies. Let's get back. Let's get back to movies that are a little bit crisper, a little bit, move a little bit sharper pace here, folks.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Pullman actually acted alongside a real jaguar, a viper, and a tarantula. I forgot about that. They put a fucking tarantula in the box with him. Those
now, do those get defanged? I think they defang them or they depoison them or something. They get rid of their poison sacs.
They do something like that. But the way that this says it in the trivia, it says the animals were raised in captivity and were relatively tame. That didn't mean that they were never there. There's always a chance that they'll do something, even if but I'm sure the viper was milked for any kind of, to get the poison out. The jaguar was probably fine as long as they didn't but I'll say this. I mean, look at Siegfried and Roy, even if they've been, captivity for years, you sometimes fuck around and find out with wild animals.
That jaguar was cute. It was adorable. It was a total baby. It was like, it had its little paw in its mouth and everything. She was a certified good girl. I didn't see any jaguar balls on there, so I'm assuming she's a lady jaguar, but
Listen, there is a guy on TikTok. I don't know if you've seen his videos, but he has like this, I want to say it's a puma or something like that he's raised in, captivity.
Yeah.
And he plays around with it. It like does this thing where it acts like it's going to attack him, and then it jumps on him, and it's just like licking his face and all that, which is cute. But every time he does like these montage videos where it's like, it sneaks up on him and attacks him just out of fun. Every time I'm like, this is the time this dude dies. This is the time. It's gonna happen.
It's time.
It's happening.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's always a possibility, and you just kind of have to be aware of that. If this is how I go, this is how I go. Because there's this lady that lives among bears in, I forget what state, and they're just comfortable with her house. It is allegedly illegal to hunt these bears in this state, but it's still happening. Well, they can't hunt on her property. So these bears have learned, hey, we're safe on this property, and she doesn't touch them, at least not. She gets real close. One of them knows how to open the door to her house and close it. Like, she tells him, she calls him Mr. Doorman, and she's like, okay, close my door. And she might have to tell him 2 or 3 times, but he does. He grabs the handle, closes the fucking door. Sometimes the babies will drag her rug out of her house and play with it on the front lawn. And she's just like, whatever, But she's just like, look, I just respect them, and I just don't engage them. I mean, other than to tell them no if they're getting too close. They listen to her. It's fucking, she taught one how to sit. Every day people tell her, this could be your last day on earth. And she's like, I'm very careful with them. I'm not saying it can't happen. And I tell other people to exercise caution. Don't do what I do. Like,
Did they, is that the same woman that has the bear that visits her house and like it opens the door up and then she tells it to close the door and it does it or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 2 of them now. There was once it was just a boy bear. She called him Mr. Doorman, and now there's a mom with her baby bears, but they feel safe on her property because they know they can't be hunted there.
Well, that's all well and good, but a mama bear, it doesn't take much to provoke. I mean,
100%.
Even if it's a black bear, I mean, now
it is a black bear.
Bears,
yeah.
You know, they don't normally, scare me, but if I see a smaller one, I'm like, where the fuck's the mama bear? And let me get the fuck out of here. Because if she thinks her baby's threatened,
no, she brings her babies to the porch. She goes up there with her babies. And then she even yelled at her baby one time. And how this lady held her camera still while that bear growled, because I think the bear was getting too close to the entryway, and the mama bear knows they're not allowed to go inside the house. At least the mama bear has been keeping that boundary. And the baby bear got a little too close, and the mom was like, "Rah!" And it was the loudest noise I had ever heard. And that lady did not jolt. She didn't shake, nothing. She's holding that camera. I'm like, how? I could never. And I know she's been living among them for the past 20 or so years, but still. Wasn't the grizzly man, wasn't he also around them for so long until he got eaten by one?
Yeah, I mean, he lived with them forever and thought that he knew everything about them. And then, one day it was a different story. I mean, it's one of those things where you don't know what's going on with the animal. And I mean, it's just like humans. You can be sitting there talking to somebody who's your best friend and they have a bad day and they're a total dick to you.
Yeah.
I mean, if a bear's a total dick to you, then you might not be alive anymore. So
exactly. Or that bear gets a little extra hungry and rations are low.
Well, I think that you could probably feed your way out of that, but I mean, as long as they're not a grizzly. But I mean, but that one grizzly man, he was totally fucking stupid. I mean, grizzlies are a whole different ball game. According to this, the characters of Lucy and Celine and Louis Mozart are actually one person in real life. They're both they're based on a voodoo priest named Marcel Pierre, who was the one that Wade Davis actually talked to in the 70s when he was doing his research.
Yeah.
Davis, it happened similar to how it was in the movie, that part we was talking about, where he went to Mozart's place and, tried to pay him for the zombie potion. And they bickered back and forth about how much it was worth. But according to this, Davis stated that nothing in the formula that he was shown by Pierre was actually could produce the effects of zombification. And of course, there was no actual intervention by the government or secret police forces to stop Davis, because that was something that, Craven added in the movie, as an extra thing. And actually, it was the supernatural stuff that Wade Davis in the special features of the disc I was watching, he commented on that disappointed him the most. He said he liked the portrayal that they were doing for the most part, but then when it got to supernatural stuff, it was a little too, out there and a little too stupid for him. So, this movie inspired the song Voodoo by Godsmack. Have you ever heard that song?
I haven't, but
it's literally just the main singer saying voodoo, voodoo. Like the whole song's him doing that. And then it's like, he does a little thing in the middle where he's like, I'm not the one who's so far away when the snake bite enters my vein or whatever.
I know that song. Yes. I didn't know that was.
It's based upon this. So there you go.
He was definitely on whatever fucking Bill Pullman had at the beginning of the film, whatever shrooms Bill Pullman took. That's what this fucking singer was on when he was like, let me make this song inspired by this here movie,
Dargent Petraud's actually based on a real life character too, loosely. There was a person by the name of Luckner Cambronne who lived from 1930 to 2006, who was a commander of the secret police. So
the Dream Police. I'm just kidding.
Secret Police. Actors Michael Gough and Michael Jackson from the Serpent and Rainbow have played Alfred Pennyworth in the Batman movies, have each played. So there you go. I mean, this film is Bill Pullman's first horror film. The three that followed were Brain Dead, Lake Placid. I forgot he was in Lake Placid. That's a pretty good movie too.
When bad animals go bad.
Yep. And The Grudge in 2004. He was actually in that one. I forgot. He played the husband or the guy at the beginning of the movie that offs himself by falling out of the building, and it's actually a pretty effective scene. This movie was released in the same year as Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master.
Shocker.
Kind of weird. Of course, Craven disavowed any of those sequels that were not his. So there you go. Let's see, and that's it as far as any of the special trivia about the movie that's worth a damn. So so we've already kind of set our feelings on the movie, so it's kind of just a rinse repeat wrap up here.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you think about it overall? I mean, like I said, I prefer the movie whenever it kind of sticks to more realistic stuff. I did like the zombie appearance in this movie. I'll give them that.
Yes.
That female zombie. Well, I even like how they portrayed Kristoff, because he's an interesting take on what a real zombie would be like. But I like the desiccated look of the female zombie in this, because I mean it's a look you don't see in a lot of zombie movies. I mean, they don't look like that for the most part.
She makes sense because you gotta remember there's a lot of toxins involved with what's going on here, and he's probably been poisoned at this point, and so it makes sense that he's seeing things. So and you're going to make up in your head what's being presented to you. They're talking about zombies, which, by the way, real quick, what was the name of the drug? They were talking about it at the table before the white woman got possessed and attacked. What's his name?
Oh, the one that they came up with, I can't even remember the name of it. Did it have like a zombie name to it?
It had a zombie name to it, and it sounded just like Zombifil or something like that. It was so funny. It was a really good name, though, and I tried to Google it, and I couldn't find it.
Hey, listen, the Dead Rising video game and the movie that came after, or movies that came after, they have a product to keep you from turning into a zombie called Zombrex. That's a pretty good name for a drug, too.
It was something very similar to that. So, anyways, in terms of seeing the priestess, the voodoo priestess or whatever she was, sorceress, that is easily explained. Everything else, a little bit too much. So
the stuff with Petrod, I mean, well, the scene where he's getting his scrotum like stabbed to the chair. Now that's very effective, because you can imagine, a dictator doing that. But the shit at the end of it's just way too out.
Yeah, it's just too far out there. But I really liked it for the actual realization of these are zombies that do exist in Haiti. There is something going on. People are more aware of it now. They've heard of it, and it sucks because maybe it's going to scare people to go visit there. Just don't go to the slums of Haiti. You're going to be fine,
To me, the movie is, like I said, it's pretty solid, and I was enjoying most of it. And I really dig that scene, the scene that everybody talks about with this movie where he's buried alive. I mean, that scene is terrifying in a different way. Like, not a jump scare, but like, oh shit. Like, because, I mean, even without zombification, the amount of people that were, buried alive before they realized or better ways to detect when you were actually dead was surprisingly high. They started putting like bells in graveyards, so that like with little wires attached into the coffin, just so that people who were freshly buried could like ring the bell and let the grave diggers or the caretakers at night know if they'd been buried alive or not.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, so
the dead ringers.
That's a real thing.
Well, it's funny because when he was in the grave and he was buried and everything, and he's screaming and you could technically hear it, I was like, oh, well, fucking Winston, whoever his name is going to come and save you. I just knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, but he got lucky, because that, I mean, normally what they would have done is they came back and dug him up themselves, but I guess they knew that him. And that's part of it too. The theory is that you have to be in this culture and believe that such things can happen, because like, just like he did in the movie, he was recovering from the poison, but like he didn't believe he was dead. Like he was like, no, I was poisoned. Like, this is bullshit. I'm not a zombie. So it didn't really work on him because he didn't buy into the whole thing.
Yeah,
so
I get that. It was either going to be that or grave robbers.
That's true. And they did set up the fact that they were grave robbers, so that would have worked as far as like a way to get him out of the situation.
Definitely. So like I said, I'm going to reiterate that zombie season has kicked off really good and easy for me. It's been a very smooth takeoff. Cannot guarantee that it's not going to be a bumpy ride.
Are you even going to be able to make it? The next episode, we are covering the basically I Am Legend, because it's the book that it's that the whole thing's based upon is what inspired George Romero to make his ghouls slash zombies,
So we're watching the Omega Man, and
we're watching the Omega Man. Last Man on Earth is the one with Vincent Price, which is an older film, and you're probably going to have your issues with that one. But it's not old as in like 1930s. It's like 1950s, but still black and white or something like that.
Yeah, I've been wanting to watch the Omega Man forever. I have not. I cannot tell you why I haven't.
Now, we haven't decided. We haven't officially said, but are we going to lump in the Will Smith version of the movie? Okay.
I want to, because I will spoiler alert you kind of right now. And I say kind of because it's been at least, a decade? I don't remember when that one came out. I liked it when it came out. Not going to say that that's going to remain the same.
I've always been disappointed in it, and I'll tell you why, because I read the book, and the book is fucking amazing. And I watched the Vincent Price version, and it's actually surprisingly, it's loyal to the book in a sense. Like it does a better job of representing what's in the book. And I don't hate the Will Smith version of it, but it's just one of those things.
Now, Reverend, we have discussed, and we will be discussing a specific book in this season about how there's very rare a book that the movie can hold a candle to the book. I think you and I have agreed. Well, wait, you haven't read Warm Bodies, but I have.
I've not read Warm Bodies.
Oh, my God. Have you considered an audio version of it maybe while you're at work?
I can probably try to look into that. I don't know. And see if I can have it done by then, as long as it's not a real lengthy one or whatever to try to do.
It shouldn't be, because the book itself is pretty small. Have you ever done Audible before?
Yeah, I've got it.
Oh, darn it. Okay, I was going to say, because has anyone ever gifted you a book?
No, they haven't.
I think I can gift you a book, and I don't know if I have that in my library. If you've never been gifted a book before, I can gift you a book for free, even if your account is not active.
Well, it's active right now because they had like the special deal, and I'm like,
in the process. Oh, you're talking about the 5 minutes, or not 5 minutes, the $5 a month or something?
Yeah. I did that for like 3 months. I was like, why not?
Did you also know that on Spotify, and Spotify, we are not being sponsored by you, but if you would like to sponsor us, we're looking for sponsors. But did you know on Spotify, you get 15 hours free a month? Oh, you don't. Never mind. Just kidding. I get 15 hours free.
But anyways, what I was going to say about all that is that I understand that books are going to have like there's things that you can't do a movie version of, but even the Omega Man captures a part of the story that I don't feel like the Will Smith version does, in the sense that he's like, just the apocalyptic feel of the place. Like there's something about that new movie and the way that they did it that I don't get the vibe like I do from the original story. It's like, because it really does play up the fact that he's like this last man who's on Earth, and like every night he's getting attacked by these hordes of like the undead or whatever, and like during the day he goes out and hunts them down to try to thin out their numbers so that he can, he's because they're getting better about trying to break into his house no matter what he does, to keep them out. And
so this is the book. I know the movie's the same, but the book is a little more telling of it all, or?
It is, and it kind of like feeds into more of the, what he has to do on a daily basis to survive. And then and then the flip, because that's the twist about I Am Legend. The reason it's named that is that there's a group of like infected people they're not like the zombies who are kind of mindless and just trying to break into his house. They actually have formed a society. They're trying to survive, even though they can't go out in the day because the sunlight, hurts them, without having like a lot of makeup on and like some other stuff. But they kind of figured out how to do that. But he scares them, and he is the legend. He's the boogeyman to them because he's the daywalker that has no weaknesses like they do, and he's stalking them while they're asleep and killing them. So that's the reason it's called I Am Legend, is because it flips the end, and he's the monster, to this new version of the humans. And the line that I love best about the book, and I guess I'll repeat this in the next episode, but like he's a scientist and he's looked at their blood and he knows that their blood is degenerating, and so they'll become mindless like the other zombies, even though they don't realize it. And he laughs as they're killing him at the end of it because he knows that they're going to break down and become the exact monsters that they think that they've surpassed.
Yeah.
So,
damn.
but like in the movies, like like I said, I think they catch a lot of that in the Vincent Price version. It's a slower movie. They don't like play up a lot of the stuff, but they capture a lot of that stuff. And then the thing that's good about the Omega Man is that they really play up like more of the, like, you know, he's the threat of the zombies and stuff, because like, I mean, it's more of an action movie. And then the Will Smith is like kind of a weird combination of the two, but the CGI of the zombies is what makes me kind of not like the new one as well. So
Yeah.
they're not really zombies, they're vampires, but whatever. They're not like the vampires that you think of in the Dracula sense. So, and they are the next step, because they are clearly what inspired Romero. Like he even said it at one point. He's like, I read that book and I thought it was pretty cool, so you know, I made a twist on it. You know.
Yeah. Okay. So for the lineup, we made a rough draft, and we said December was going to be, you know, White Zombie, Serpent of the Rainbow, Anna and the Apocalypse, and Stalled. So we did that. January, all I have is Night of the Living Dead and the remake. So we're adding I Am Legend to that.
Well, I Am Legend and its variants will be what we'll do first before Night of the Living Dead.
Perfect.
Because it's the one last step between the two, you know, the voodoo and the new zombie or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's one other thing that I want to give credit to Cody for. I didn't realize this, but the Smurfs technically came up with a version of the zombie right before Romero's version in a roundabout set, or it was around the same time. So that's an interesting little tidbit that comes up around all this.
Okay, so Omega Man, Last Man on Earth. And I don't know what you're talking about with the Smurfs and the zombies.
I'll bring it up. I'll put it
Okay.
in a little history section. But yeah, I didn't know about it until he brought it up. It's weird, but they really do like function like zombies. So
Yeah, I know we've talked about moving Paranorman around a little bit because we talked about that. But we've also talked about have we put Scooby Zombie Island on here? Oh yeah, we did. Shaun of the Dead and no, that's Zombieland. Never mind. Because we have to do Scooby Zombie Island.
I think when we do Zombie Island, we need to do Paranorman with it, because that's like the kid zombie movies, you know, basically, or whatever.
That's all I have in October. But October is a lot of friendlier things is what I have so far. You did say Lucio Fulci films. I'm not that sure if that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, it's Lucio Fulci. Yeah.
Okay. You have some of those in there, but then Paranorman, Scooby, and then Community.
We're going to have to work around some of this stuff. There's a lot that, I mean, because we really need to end the very last thing in October needs to be, you know, the Day of the Dead from George Romero, because it is a it's got a Halloween vibe to it. I mean, even if because it's actually set during Halloween, even if it's not really blatant in the movie, because the world's basically over at that point. But yeah, that's kind of what we have going on. So we're moving from, you know, the voodoo zombie next to the vampires, and it shouldn't fit in the season, but it does, and that's kind of the reason why we're covering them next.
That's just how it's gonna happen, guys. Just let it happen, okay?
Just deal with it. Let it linger. Let it kind of just mellow out and be out there. So
yeah, we also have some friends that are gonna be joining us on this podcast here soon. That's not gonna be frequent, so if that's not your thing, I know sometimes I listen to podcasts and you have somebody new, and I'm like, ugh, who's this? You know. But this is a person that truly does not like horror films. Like, she doesn't hate them. They scare the fuck out of her. She don't like it. So that'll be interesting to have her on, because if you think I'm scared. Yeah,
what was it she was wanting to come on and talk about? Which movie?
It's not even a scary movie. It's Death Becomes Her.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's that's part of our, I think that's part of our Valentine's.
Yeah, it's a love movie in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. So anyways, for me, this movie is a 3. You said it was a 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds about right. I mean, I don't hate that for that movie. And we'll catch you next time on this. So with that, peace be with you.
And with your spirit.